Hey everybody, it's Albert, and I realize I haven't made a video in a while, but I've been incredibly busy this summer, so I'm hoping in the next few weeks I'll get back into things here. But I did get a request to explain something, and I thought I had done a video on this in the past, but it turns out I hadn't. So I thought, it'd be something quick, and it'd be kind of a little interesting little topic. And basically what it's about is, where did they get that formula they use for the celebration of Easter? Or how did they come up with that? For those not familiar, it sounds rather convoluted. It basically says that you'll celebrate it on the first Sunday following the first full moon on or after the vernal equinox, which is incredibly convoluted, but there's actually a reason behind it, and I thought it would be interesting to explain why. And what it has to do with is the desire to have things relatively consistent with the New Testament, while at the same time giving the date with respect to the solar calendar that the Romans used, basically roughly the annual day of the feast with respect to the solar calendar, and being able to celebrate it on Sunday. So those are the factors that are going into it. And what ends up happening is that you have a real difficulty in going from the Jewish calendar, which is basically a lunar calendar. It goes new moon to new moon for each month, but of course that's not going to calibrate correctly with the solar year. So every so often they add an extra month, so it recalibrates it with the solar year. They'll add an extra month, and those familiar with the Old Testament, you know the whole thing about looking for the ripening of barley, and if it isn't ripe, then you add the extra month. But I'm not going to go into all the details of that at the moment. But basically, it's every so often you'll add an extra month, and this was fairly common in the ancient Near East for those places that use lunar calendars, to just add an extra month so many years and it recalibrates it with the solar year. Now, solar calendars generally try to keep months as well, but they're not really always going new moon to new moon. They add extra days on certain months each year, and that's what the Romans did, or like the Egyptians had, they just added 5 extra days at the end of the year, and then later they would start doing leap years as the Romans did. But you still have this problem because the Jewish Passover will be doing things from the standpoint of the lunar calendar, but the church wanted to do things from the standpoint of the Roman calendar. So they're trying to keep roughly the same time in the solar year. Now, the whole basic idea is that Passover is generally, it's a spring festival. It comes in the early spring. It's tied to the early spring. So it's going to be within a month or so of the vernal equinox. So how exactly would you decide? Well, what they do is they look at when Passover would fall they'll assume it's after the vernal equinox. So you start with it's on or after the vernal equinox, because it's going to be in spring. It's going to be within a month, okay? So what they then do is they say, okay, it fell on 14th in the sun. That's when Passover, that's Passover, it would be around 14th in the sun. So it's in the middle of the month. Well, if the beginning of the month in the Hebrew calendar is, or the Hebrew month in this case, the month of Nisan, if that's going to be a new moon, then the 14th of the month, which is the middle of the month, is going to be a full moon. So it's going to be, so basically what they said is, you go to the first full moon on or after the spring equinox, the vernal equinox. But then they wanted it to be on a Sunday, so they said the Sunday following that first full moon on or after the vernal equinox, and that's how you get these rather strange formula. So what they're tying it to is they wanted it to be roughly around the time within the solar year of the Passover, while at the same time falling on a Sunday and being consistent with the solar rather than the lunar calendars. And whenever you try to do stuff like this, going from lunar to solar or solar to lunar calendars, you end up with really strange formulas. And this is an example, but for those who've never understood why they did it that way, there it is. Thank you very much for your time.